Have you ever wondered why some people in their 70s walk with complete confidence, while others struggle just to stand up from a chair? Welcome to the channel. Today we are discussing a silent biological process, stealing your independence. Please note, this video is for educational purposes and should not replace professional medical advice. Over 3 decades in clinical practice, I have observed a distinct pattern in how patients enter my office. There is a stark contrast between those who walk in confidently on their own and those who require assistance from a family member, a cane, or a wheelchair. Most assume the dividing line is simply inevitable aging, chronic pain, or bad genetics. But the medical reality is significantly more urgent. The primary factor determining your independence as you age is your leg strength. This is not about athletic performance or bodybuilding. It is about a biological process that accelerates aggressively after the age of 60. In the medical community, we call this condition sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the involuntary loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength. The statistics surrounding this condition demand your immediate attention. Clinical reviews suggest that once you pass 60, you can lose between 3 to 5% of your leg strength every single year if you are not actively intervening. This decline happens quietly. You do not wake up one morning unable to walk. Instead, the decline is insidious. It shows up in micro moments like that split-second hesitation before stepping off a curb, the sudden need to use armrests to push yourself out of a deep sofa, or the feeling that stairs are steeper than last year. These are not inevitable symptoms of aging. They are early warning signs of muscle failure. Now, let us address the most common misconception I encounter in my medical practice. When patients realize they are slowing down, their instinct and the advice they receive is to walk more. While I will never discourage walking because it is fantastic for your cardiovascular health and your mood, we must be medically precise. Walking alone does not stop sarcopenia. A pivotal study from McMaster University followed adults between 60 and 80 and found that habitual walking did not significantly preserve the lower body power needed to prevent falls or stand up independently. The reason lies in how our muscle fibers work. As we age, we preferentially lose type 2 fast-twitch muscle fibers responsible for quick and powerful movements like catching yourself when you trip. Walking primarily engages slow-twitch endurance fibers. To keep your independence, you must challenge muscles against resistance. The nervous system is efficient. If you do not demand strength, it stops maintaining the neural pathways that generate it. The result is a body moving slower, more cautiously, and with less confidence. We begin with the seated knee extension, targeting the quadriceps on the front of your thigh. In geriatric medicine, we view the quadriceps as the primary engine for standing up. Sit tall in a firm chair and extend one leg until straight. The crucial part is taking 3 full seconds to return your foot to the floor. This slow lowering creates safe adaptations to stimulate repair without grinding the joint. Next, we address the primary balance stabilizer of your body, the calves. Biologically, they act as your connection to the ground. We train them through the seated heel raise. With feet flat on the floor, lift both heels high and lower them slowly. Pumping the ankles improves circulation and reawakens the ability of your brain to know where your feet are in space, critical for stability. Moving up, we discuss the hip flexors through seated marching. This addresses the senior shuffle caused when muscles responsible for lifting the thigh weaken. Sitting upright, lift one knee toward your chest and lower it over 3 seconds. This demands that your core and hips work together, ensuring your foot clears the ground safely. The fourth movement focuses on the posterior chain through the seated sit-back control. When glute muscles atrophy, we lose the braking system of the body. Scoot to the edge of your chair, lean forward, and lift your body a few inches off the seat. Then, take 5 seconds to slowly lower yourself back down. This forces the glutes to fire intensely to prevent collapsing. Finally, the isometric leg press hold involves no joint motion. Sit in your chair and drive your feet into the floor as hard as safely possible for 10 seconds without standing up. This trains your nervous system to recruit muscles rapidly, mimicking a fall scenario where you must react instantly. Combining these movements systematically addresses the physiological deficits leading to frailty. 2 sessions a week can fundamentally alter your aging process. The goal is to remain functional and independent. Your body is resilient and stands ready to get stronger if provided the right stimulus. Now we arrive at what I consider the single most overlooked yet medically profound exercise in our entire protocol. This is the isometric leg press hold. Before we break down the mechanics, I want to reiterate that this information is strictly for educational purposes, and you should always consult your primary care physician before beginning any new exercise routine, especially if you have existing health conditions. In a real-world fall scenario, you simply do not have the luxury of time. You do not have time to think about your posture or plan your next move. Your muscles must react instantly to catch you and stabilize your body weight. This requires your central nervous system to rapidly recruit motor units. If that neurological connection is sluggish, the risk of a severe fall increases dramatically. This is exactly what the isometric leg press hold addresses. It serves as a direct neurological wake-up call to your lower body. What makes this movement uniquely valuable, particularly for older adults, is that it involves absolutely no joint motion. This makes it a perfect, safe option for those dealing with severe arthritis or chronic joint pain. You rely on what we call an isometric contraction, meaning your muscles generate a massive amount of force without ever changing their length or moving the knee joint. A landmark study from the University of Copenhagen demonstrated exactly this. They found that isometric training could significantly improve functional performance and drastically reduce fall risk because it trains the nervous system to fire rapidly on demand. To perform this correctly, sit tall in your chair. Plant your feet flat on the ground. Now, drive your feet downward into the floor as hard as you safely can, exactly as if you are about to stand up, but do not actually lift your body off the chair. You will feel an intense engagement across your quadriceps, your hamstrings, and your glutes, all simultaneously. Hold this deep tension for 10 seconds while making sure to breathe normally, and then release. I want to hear from you now. Have you ever tried isometric exercises before, or is this concept entirely new to you? Please drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts or any questions you might have. Moving from the rapid neurological response we just discussed, we must now address another critical element of senior independence. While reacting quickly is essential, another major factor in preventing falls is your ability to control your own body weight against gravity. This brings us to the next vital movement in our protocol, focusing on your posterior chain, which includes your glutes and your hamstrings. I refer to this movement as the seated sit-back control. From an educational and clinical standpoint, one of the most common precursors to injury is not just overall weakness, but the complete loss of your internal braking system. When your gluteal muscles begin to atrophy, you lose the crucial ability to safely lower your center of mass. Think about how many older adults you see simply dropping or collapsing heavily into a chair rather than sitting down with deliberate control. This lack of control is a major medical red flag and a clear warning sign of mobility loss. A compelling study conducted at the University of British Columbia specifically examined this phenomenon. Their findings were incredibly striking and provide a great educational perspective on why we must train differently as we age. Older adults who lacked this specific type of eccentric control were found to be more than twice as likely to experience a fall. To train this braking system safely, we will reverse traditional exercise advice. Instead of focusing on standing up, we focus entirely on the descent. Begin by scooting forward to the edge of your chair with your feet planted securely. Lean forward slightly from your hips, keeping your nose over your toes, and lift your body just a few inches off the seat. Now comes the critical phase. You must take 4 to 5 full seconds to slowly lower yourself back down. You must actively fight the pull of gravity here. By slowing down the descent, you are forcing your glutes and hamstrings to fire intensely to prevent you from collapsing backward into the seat. This is a direct replication of daily life mechanics. Whether you are using the restroom or getting into a vehicle, this movement builds immense, practical stability in your hip girdle. Mastering this controlled descent restores your confidence and physical capability to navigate everyday environments safely without the constant fear of losing your balance. Now that we have established the crucial braking system of your body through the posterior chain, we must shift our focus to the front of the pelvis. This brings us to the next critical component of our protocol, which addresses a very specific and dangerous mobility issue. You have likely observed this phenomenon in public, or perhaps you have noticed it in yourself. It is commonly referred to as the senior shuffle. This occurs when individuals walk with their feet barely leaving the ground, sliding or shuffling forward rather than taking decisive steps. From a medical perspective, this shuffling gait is not merely a sign of getting older. It is a direct mechanical result of weak and tight hip flexors. The hip flexors are the muscles responsible for lifting your thigh upward. Years of prolonged sitting can cause these muscles to atrophy and shorten. When you lack the strength to lift your knee adequately during a normal stride, you place yourself at a catastrophic risk of tripping over common household hazards like loose rugs, door thresholds, or uneven cracks. A prominent study from Monash University specifically highlighted that hip strength is a fundamental key factor in maintaining overall gait stability. To reverse this dangerous shuffling pattern, we utilize an exercise called seated marching. The execution of this movement is highly specific. Posture is absolutely non-negotiable here. You must sit upright in your chair and refrain from leaning back against the rest. By staying unsupported, you force your core musculature to engage. Slowly lift one knee up toward your chest as high as comfortably possible. Hold that top position for a brief second, and then precisely lower your foot back to the floor, using the 3-second count we discussed earlier. This slow descent demands that your core and your hip flexors work in perfect synchronization. It trains your brain and muscles to ensure that when you are out walking in the real world, your foot will reliably clear the ground with every single step. This proactive conditioning dramatically reduces the likelihood of a devastating trip and fall accident. Empowering yourself with this knowledge is the first step toward lasting independence. If you are finding these medical insights and practical exercises valuable for your health journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss our future educational protocols. As we continue our protocol to secure your independence, we must move down the kinetic chain to a frequently ignored area. While we just focused on lifting the leg to prevent tripping, we now need to address what happens when your foot actually strikes the ground. Many older adults completely ignore their lower legs, mistakenly believing that training calves is only for athletes. However, from a clinical and educational standpoint, your calves are your primary connection to the earth. They serve as the premier balance stabilizers of your body. Specifically, we are looking at the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles. Think about what happens when you stand still. You naturally sway slightly forward and backward. It is your calf muscles that fire reflexively to pull your center of gravity back to a safe and neutral position. If these muscles are weak, that harmless sway rapidly turns into a dangerous fall. The medical evidence here is incredibly strong. Extensive research conducted at Kyoto University demonstrated a direct correlation between calf weakness and an increased risk of falling, regardless of how physically fit the individuals appeared otherwise. As we age, our ankle joints also tend to become stiff, which diminishes a critical neurological function called proprioception. Proprioception is simply the ability of your brain to know exactly where your feet are in space without you having to look down at them. To rebuild this vital connection, we use the seated heel raise. Sit tall in your chair, with your feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift both heels as high off the ground as possible, placing deliberate pressure through the balls of your feet. Pause at the top, and then lower your heels back down with complete control. By mindfully pumping the ankles through their full range of motion, you are doing much more than just building muscle. You are actively improving lower extremity circulation and reawakening that dormant sensory feedback loop between your ankles and your brain. This functional training ensures that when you step on uneven terrain, like a soft lawn or a cobblestone path, your body has the reflexive strength and spatial awareness to keep you upright and moving forward safely. Now that we have re-established the foundation at your feet and ankles, we must travel up the kinetic chain to address the absolute powerhouse of your lower body. This brings us to the ultimate stabilizing force for your entire daily routine. We are focusing on the quadriceps femoris, the massive muscle group located on the front of your thigh. We will target this critical area using the seated knee extension. In the field of geriatric medicine, we consider the quadriceps to be your primary engine for standing up. When these specific muscles begin to weaken, you lose the vital ability to control your descent. This is exactly why you might find yourself suddenly dropping or plopping heavily into a chair instead of lowering yourself gently. A compelling study from the University of Pittsburgh actually identified this specific lack of quadriceps strength as a potent predictor of future mobility disability. It is not just a minor inconvenience, it is a major clinical warning sign that your independence is at risk. To perform this movement safely and correctly, we focus less on the lifting portion and place all of our attention on the lowering phase. Begin by sitting tall in a firm chair, making sure your hips are positioned all the way back to fully support your spine. Slowly extend one leg outward until your knee is completely straight and hold that top position for a brief pause. This initial upward movement is called the concentric phase. However, the real physical transformation happens next. You must take a full 3 seconds to return your foot to the floor. Many people make the critical mistake of rushing through this exercise, simply swinging their leg up and letting gravity drop it back down. That rushed momentum completely eliminates the biological benefits. This slow, controlled descent is known medically as eccentric loading. By executing the movement this way, you are creating safe, microscopic adaptations in the muscle tissue. This specific technique stimulates profound muscle repair and strengthening without grinding the knee joint itself. If you perform 8 to 10 repetitions on each leg, you are telling your body that the knee must remain stable under tension. When we step back and view this entire sequence from a clinical perspective, it becomes clear that combining these 5 movements is far more than just a basic exercise routine. You are actively administering a practical prescription for your own physical independence. By executing this protocol, you systematically address every major physiological deficit leading to senior frailty. You train the knee extensors to stand safely, strengthen the calves to maintain balance, engage the hip flexors to clear obstacles, utilize the glutes to control gravity, and wake up your nervous system to react instantly to sudden environmental shifts. The most profound educational lesson I can offer you today is that consistency will always beat intensity. You do not need to spend hours in a crowded gym to see life-changing results. Committing to these specific chair exercises for just 2 to 3 sessions a week can fundamentally alter the trajectory of your aging process. The ultimate goal here is not to magically become young again. The true objective is to remain functional, highly capable, and fiercely independent for as long as possible. Please remember, this information is provided for educational purposes, and you should consult your physician regarding new routines. Your physical body is incredibly resilient. Even well into your 60s and beyond, your muscular system stands ready to rebuild and grow stronger if provided with the correct biological stimulus. If you found this medical perspective and protocol valuable, please like this video to help it reach others. Leave a comment below sharing your current progress, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more evidence-based health strategies.